This afternoon I'm getting a part of our white garden ready for the transition into fall. It's given us a lot of nice contrast all summer long with different types of foliage and different bloom periods, but as things go out we need to replace them with others to keep up that nice green-white contrast through the season. And so today I'm going to plant some mums. I've already put one of them in, and these are nice 8-inch pots of mums that we picked up at a local nursery. They're very plentiful right now, and the type that we're planting are from Yoder and Sons nurseries up in Ohio, and they're called the Prophets series. And the ones that we're planting today are Nicole. And the Prophet series of mums are a series that are named after women or girls, and there's Nicole and Robin and Linda and a whole series of beautiful colors, not only in white but ranging to deep yellow, bronze, pink, lavender, almost a deep red as well. So look around the local nurseries and pick up some that you want to fill into your local landscape. Now, with most mums, keep in mind that they're perennials. They're going to be around for a while, and these are some that we plan to keep in place here. So we have several, and as the petunias go out, we'll pull those out and fill on the rest of the way with these white mums. But one thing you want to keep in mind with mums is, as I mentioned, they are perennials. They do get overcrowded, and even in the pot, when you buy them in the store, you want to pull them out and look at the root system first of all, because that's the first overcrowding that can occur with mums. And if you have found some circling of roots as it goes around the pot, you might want to just take a knife and score those. Now these aren't badly pot bound, but sometimes when they're in the smaller 6-inch pots, they're pretty thoroughly pot bound when you plant them, and you'd want to go down and score down the length of them on all 4 sides before planting. Now before I put this into the hole, because these are going to be here for quite a while, I've got some Osmocote, and this is the 270-day formula. I'll put in about 2 tablespoons worth and work that into the soil. It needs to be down where the roots are going to be, and that's going to help feed these plants on into spring. I'm staggering these in the garden so they won't be just in a straight line. Eventually they'll fill in, it'll just be a mass of color. But this is what we want to end up with today. And just get that seeded down in there. Make sure you don't have any air gaps underneath, because that will kill those roots that are at the base of that container grown mass of roots. And then just fill in around those. Make sure that you get it down the sides and water that in well. Now those are going to bloom for us probably in about 4 or 5 weeks from now, and they'll be just beautiful. You're going to see some mums in a couple of weeks in the nurseries that are in full bloom, and they should continue for you for several weeks. Now as you get into winter, go ahead and let the mum foliage die down naturally and don't cut it back. It's very tempting to be a real neatnik around the garden, and as soon as the mums freeze back in the dead of winter, to cut them back. But keep in mind that this foliage is going to help capture fallen leaves. It'll help hold snow if you get snow in your area and hold moisture in. But basically it protects that root ball so you get good growth next spring. One other thing tip I want to give you is that if you have mums that you've carried over from last year that you're getting ready to bloom in your garden right now, and they've gotten real tall and leggy, seem to be falling over, especially as they go into bloom, you may want to mark your calendar for next July to go in and give them a pruning. Prune them back a half or maybe a third so that they'll bush out, branch out, and have stouter stems for the fall flowering period for next year. Well, I'm going to finish up planting the last of these. I hope you'll go to your nursery and pick out some mums this year. Some of them even make it easy for you and have color-coded pots. They'll have lavender pots for lavender blooming ones, yellow for yellow blooming. So really, it's a can't-fail way to have good fall color this season. You know, one chore we might not look forward to at the end of the season is cleaning up pots. But if you're going to reuse them this fall or next spring, you need to clean them up properly, or you might carry over certain diseases. Now there's a difference between plastic pots and clay pots and how much cleaning you're really capable of doing. A plastic pot is a fairly non-porous surface, and so if there are salt residues built up inside of it, such as this one, you can pretty well scrape those off, and that's a buildup from using fertilizers on the plants. There are also some minerals built up from just the water that we water them with. There are also other critters that are left behind though, and that's in the form of different fungal pathogens that can reinfest your plantings next year. And I've had the sad experiences, you probably have also, of getting in a hurry and just doing a quick rinse out of a pot and reusing it and ending up with different soil inhabiting fungi wiping out a crop of seedlings or cuttings. And so you really need to do a dip of Clorox. Now, before you do that though, of course it's a good idea to do a pre-wash or pre-rinse in just plain water or water with a little bit of detergent. And that's what I've done with this plastic pot. I want to show you some differences though. The clay pot, as I mentioned before, plastic is non-porous. Clay pots are porous, and so there's only so much you can get off of them. You can probably surface sterilize them and get pathogens off, but any salts that have built up are impregnated in the clay, and if you have a heavy buildup, you're really going to need to scrape and scrub and realize that you won't get all of it off. Now the next step that you need to do is to mix up a tub of chlorinated water, and this needs to be about a 10% chlorine solution. So if you have 9 cups of water, you need 1 cup of chlorine bleach to make it a good surface sterilant. And I want to remind you that chlorine is a fairly unstable compound, and so if you're in a hurry, you might spend your first day scrubbing up pots and just getting the surface cleaned off, and then the next day do a dip of this with all your pots and run them through all at one time, just like a little rinse cycle at the end. That way it'll go fairly quickly and you'll get it all done at once. You can't save this over the next day. There's a reason that people have to rechlorinate their swimming pools. That's because the chlorine compound volatilizes off, and so you can only do this one time and then you have to dump it down the sink. One last thing I want to mention in dumping products down the sink is a mild Clorox solution or chlorine bleach solution is not harmful going down the sink, but there is a little problem that we're having around some cities in Oklahoma with people dumping pesticide leftovers down their sinks. This includes commonly used pesticides such as diazinon and Dursban. If you are mixing up a tank load of pesticide and you're going to spray it around your house or your yard, please only mix up the amount that you need and use it up on the site. When you're rinsing out the container, rinse it out 3 times and also pour that out onto the site. We've had trouble at sewage treatment plants around Oklahoma and also down in Texas and across the Southeast in general with people dumping concentrated pesticide or pesticide mixtures down their kitchen sinks. Well, this goes to the sewage treatment plant, and when it gets to that point, they really can't get that pesticide out like they can clean up other products that go down the sink. And the upshot of it is that it goes down rivers and creeks where the sewage treatment plant discharges into our natural environment, and somebody has to reuse that downstream. So we really have a campaign going in Extension right now to get people to only use the amount of pesticide they need and use it just on the site.